So this is Big Sexy Poems, which is my poem authoring app, and all of this code is available on GitHub. And I'm slowly starting to use Claude Code to help me build this Cold Fusion site. And what I don't have any sense of so far is the various capabilities of the different models that Claude offers. To date, I've just been using the most robust one, which I think is the Claude Opus 4.6. So I want to try the same task and I want to run it through a couple of different models to see how they perform. So we're going to do this together. I've never done it before. Hopefully something valuable comes out of it. Right now, in this preview column, I have these poem previews, and a poem might be multiple lines. So this is just an inline preview, and you can see that it has an overflow text ellipsis here. And this is all being implemented with a custom tag. If we jump into the code and we go and look at one of these views, so if we go into client member poem list poem table and we look here, we can see that poem preview is being implemented by a custom tag, a CF module in the CFML parlance, and it's going out to this shared folder, this globally shared folder in the client. And if we look here in the client, we can see we have a globally shared folder that has a bunch of tags in it. Now, the issue is that this poem preview really doesn't belong in the global share. Really what it belongs in is the member subsystem, which is what we're looking in here. And the member subsystem has its own share folder that has a similar layout. It has its own tags folder. That's really where the poem preview and table component should go. So what I want to do is create a relatively simple refactoring task that takes these three files, poem preview and table CFM, that's the kind of controller file, poem preview and table.view.cfm, that's the rendering of the preview, and then poem preview and table.view.less, and that's the styling, the scoped styling for this particular tag. I needed to take all three of these tags, move them out of this global shared, move them into the member shared, into the tags, all three files, and then I needed to go find references to that CF module tag and rewrite them from the global shared tags folder to the member shared tags folder. So it's a relatively simple task, but I think it's representative of a lot of the refactoring that I tend to do in applications, trying stuff out, moving stuff around. So what I'm going to do to get this to be the same in all the models is I'm going to create a prompt MD file, and then I can just run that through each of the models. So it's going to take the CFML client shared tag, poem preview in table CFM. So it's going to take that module and move it into the member shared tag. So the subsystem specific share folder. That's going to include all the associated files, view CFM, view less, and Vue.js. Now there is no JS in this example, but I want to see if that confuses it. And I'm going to move them under the member subsystem and then refactor any code that references these files. I'm trying not to be overly prescriptive in how I want it to do this, right? I could tell it where those refactorings need to take place. I'm sure I could give it a lot more other kinds of specification, but again, we're being trained by the industry to treat these agents as junior developers that are under our supervision. So a junior developer would 100% understand how to do this. So we're just going to take this prompt and we're going to run through a bunch of different models. So if we jump into the command line here and what am I on? So I'm going to create a different branch for each model. So via Haiku. So let us open up Claude. And now I'm just going to say read prompt MD, ask me any clarifying questions. Oh, actually, let me just double check. Shoot, sorry. Oh, I can see it here. I was going to say, let me double check that I'm in the right model. But okay, so read prompt MD, ask me any clarifying questions if you are unsure how to proceed, and then move forward with the refactoring. All right, and we're basically going to run the same exact thing through each of the different models. All right, so it understands where it has to move things to. Now it's going to explore the code base looking for the refactorings, hopefully. All right, so it found the global share. It found references to this. Now this is going to be a really interesting one because it's actually going to have to remove that reference. So we'll see if it can do that. Right, because now it's saying that files will be auto-discovered, so that's why it doesn't need the import anymore in the member.js. It has no clarifying questions. Fantastic. All right, so let's just allow it to cook. All right, so it's finding one refactoring, another refactoring, another refactoring. It's removing the explicit import. That's exactly what we wanted. All right, so that took 49 seconds with Haiku. It moved the three files, the CFM, the view, and the less file, out of the shared global into the member shared tag. It updated the collection view, the poem view, and the revision view. Nice. And then it removed the explicit import. So that's perfect. And now let's just Docker compose up client. And that's just to rebuild the JavaScript to make sure it all works. All right, so now let's go into the application and let us refresh. I just want to, could not find. All right, I think this is an issue where for some reason Claude seems to break my Docker volume mount. So I'm just going to pause it here and restart Docker. Okay, I just restarted Docker and we can see that the page now works again. We can see that we're getting the ellipsis here in the poem previews. So everything seems to work just as we would want it. Let's take a look at the diff. So if we do git diff, we'll see that it deleted that file because it's moving it. It deleted the view file. It deleted the less file. That's one of the refactorings. It removed the explicit import. Another one of the refactorings. So there's 3 refactorings in total. There's the third one. So that's all it had to do. All it had to do, and we probably have 3 untracked files if we do status, or 4 considering the prompt. Okay, so that worked out actually pretty well. Let's do git add cfml. And that was Haiku version. Awesome. All right, so what did we learn here? We learned that the refactoring itself took 49 seconds. That's pretty awesome. Actually, let's just do commit amend. Haiku took 49 seconds. And now let's try the exact same thing in a different model. So let's change the model. We're going to go to Sonnet, best for everyday tasks. That sounds promising. And now let me just cancel out of Claude. And we'll go back into Claude. And so we see that we're on Sonnet. I'm just trying to make sure I don't make any mistakes here. Let's do a clear as well. And now let's go check out master. And then check out Sonnet 1N or 2N? 2 N's. Via Sonnet. Okay, so if we look at the git status here, we have the empty state again. And now what we're going to do is we're, again, just going to do the exact same prompt. So I'm not even going to retype it. I'm just going to up arrow in my history, and I'm going to have it do the exact same thing with Sonnet. Here we go. Again, it's exploring the code base to figure out what's involved. A already this feels a little slower than Haiku. I feel like Haiku just sort of burned right through this stuff. We can see it's doing a more in-depth review of the files, it seems. When I go back through this video, I'll be able to see how long these things took on both the sort of thinking, planning, reasoning phase versus just the implementation phase. But this is clearly feeling much, much slower than Haiku at this time. All right, no clarifying questions. The task is clear. Move the 3 files, update the 3 view references, explicitly remove the member.js. So that's exactly the same thing that Haiku did. All right, let's allow it to do whatever it needs to do. So it's updating the 3 refactorings. It's now removing the member.js file, or the import from the member.js file. All right, so the actual execution of the plan definitely happened faster. Haiku, I think, was 49 seconds. This says that it sauteed for 1 minute and 18 seconds, but that wasn't the implementation part, I don't think. That was kind of implementation plus plus. I'm not exactly sure. But we can see it moved the 3 files from the global share into the member share. It updated the 3 references, and then it removed the explicit import. So I'm going to, again, let's do Docker compose up to make sure that that builds. And then I am just going to kill my Docker and restart it because, again, for some reason, the volume mounts just tend to break for me on Claude, and I have no idea why. It's super, super frustrating. So I will come back here and I'll refresh. This will break, and I'm just going to pause it here until my container comes back up. Okay, my container just came back up, and we can see that this page works. We see that we continue to get the ellipsis here for the overflow on the poem. So let's just take a quick look at the git diff. All right, so we're on Sonnet. We see we have the 3 untracked files here for where they were moved out of the global share into the member share. Let's do a git diff again. So this is the deleted controller file, the deleted view file, the deleted less file, the refactoring 1, the removing of the import, since those files are now going to be auto-detected because they're part of the member subsystem, the 2nd refactoring, and the 3rd refactoring. Awesome. So it's basically the same exact code. Let's just do get add cfml, git commit, and this is the Sonnet. And it's hard to tell how much it ran for. I'm just going to include that 1 minute 18 seconds here. 1 minute 18 seconds. Awesome. Okay, so it's the same exact code, Haiku and Sonnet. Let's now continue our exploration. So we're going to go into the model. We're going to go to the default, the Opus. Let's clear, and then let's quit out of this, and let's just get back to our regular branch. And this is going to be via Opus. It's Opus 1P. Yeah. All right, and what we should have is just the prompt. Awesome. So let's go back into Claude. And again, we're just going to do the same exact thing. We're going to have it read that prompt, ask for clarifying questions, and then move forward. Again, this is trying to be typical of a refactoring test that I might do on the daily. Now, Opus is going to be the most robust reasoning model, so probably it's going to be the slowest. Let's see if we actually get that to show here. Searching through the files, it found the files it needs to move. There is no JS file, so that didn't get thrown off. All right, everything is clear. Move the 3 files, update the 3 references, update this to remove the explicit import. So they all came to the same conclusion. Let's let it cook. removing the explicit import. I keep getting these error editing files. I'm not sure what is going on there. Doing 1 refactoring, 2 refactorings, 3 refactorings to the references. All right, so a minute. And let's take a quick look at the Git status here. What we should see is the same thing we keep seeing, where we have the 3 untracked files and then a bunch of modifications. If we do our git diff, we can see the controller file was moved, the view file was moved, the less file was moved, 1 refactoring, removing the explicit import from the member.js, another refactoring, and then the 3rd refactoring, and that's it. So all 3 models came up with the exact same code, and we'll just do I'm going to restart my containers again just to make sure that we get that updated code. And I'll pause it going forward here. All right, so the container is back up and running. So let's jump back into the app here and we'll refresh. And we can see that nothing changed visually. We still have the poem preview. We still get the overflow text ellipsis. And what did we say? That took about a minute? A minute exactly, given the time I had to allow it to proceed. So that's pretty good. Let's commit this. One minute, 0 seconds. So essentially what we got was the exact same output with the Haiku, the Sonnet, and the Opus models. Haiku was a little faster, I think, but all of them were actually quite fast. I can go back through with the video and double check, but again, this is not meant to be exhaustive in any way whatsoever. This was a relatively simple task. This is something that you would expect anybody to be able to do. So I was hoping that all of the models would be exactly the same. I was kind of hoping there'd be a more drastic speed difference, but oddly enough, Sonnet felt like the slowest. Opus and Haiku both felt faster, despite the fact that Opus is a much more robust reasoning model, apparently. But more what I want to do is try to figure out how often I can use things like Haiku and Sonnet and not pony up for the more expensive token burner that is Opus. So, all right, awesome. Thanks for joining me on this little learning and public journey.